Today's episode is brought to you by our sponsoring partner, the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. CBMA has worked over the past decade to support Black men and boys to provide them the right word or the right person at the right time on their journey towards realizing their full potential. I value CBMA's efforts, their focus, and the investments that they have made to define this new field for Black male achievement and to rewrite the narrative that we want for our country. If you've not yet done so, I urge you to visit tbpod.com/partners today and learn more about CBMA and consider joining their membership and investing in the future of our Black men and boys.
You're listening to the Trailblazers.fm podcast, where we'll explore the stories of today's successful Black professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders. Join us to access the knowledge, resources, and tools of these accomplished professionals and come away with the know-how, confidence, and motivation you'll need to blaze your trail. And now, here's your host, Stephen A. Hart.
What's up, Blazer Nation? Welcome to episode 167 of the Trailblazers.fm podcast. Listen up, this past Friday, I had the honor of speaking at an event hosted by the Florida State Minority Suppliers Development Council. They held their 34th annual Business Expo, and I was given one of a limited few workshop sessions and had a blast speaking to a packed room for maybe a little bit more than an hour. On the topic of the talk was proven marketing strategies to transform your business and brand. And as I always do when I get up to speak to a full room, I get a little bit nervous. I still have butterflies in my stomach. I was sharing with my wife that, I almost felt like I was going to throw up as the moderator was reading my bio and introducing me. But the moment the spotlight gets on me, I tend to zone out and just get into an element. And I recalled a conversation just a couple days ago in a mastermind call with my dear friend and past guest, Patrice Washington. And Patrice reminded me of this. She said, someone needs you today. Someone needs you today. And I remember just stepping into that talk and without reservation and without limits, I poured all that I had into the business owners and entrepreneurs in the room and just gave so much. And it provided me so much satisfaction and joy to see, and hear even after the talk, so many people throughout the day coming up to me on the impact of that conversation. So if you're listening, if you're in that room, I just want to say thank you so much for giving me some of that time. I'm grateful to have had the experience and to have the opportunity to pour into you. And I hope that you found something that can help you to build your business and improve on what you're trying to get accomplished this year. I just want to say thank you so much. And I hope that you will continue to be subscribed to the podcast so that I can continue to pour into you through this medium. That said, I am so excited to introduce our guest for today. We have our featured Trailblazers, that's plural, there are two people on. This is the first married couple, not including myself and Kristen, to be guests on the podcast. And so we spoke with Steve and Pasha Carter. Pasha is an NFL cheerleader turned multi-millionaire. She took a $500 investment, turned it into a multi-million-dollar empire. She's now an internationally sought-after speaker, trainer, and direct sales expert. And her husband, Steve Carter, is a Howard alum, Howard University alum. Big up to all the HU folks that subscribe to the podcast. And Steve also built a multi-million-dollar networking business and now travels the country, training and teaching others how to build successful businesses of their own. And he's now one of the most powerful success coaches in the world. So together, this is America's favorite business couple. And I'm so happy to share this conversation with our community. Before we dive in, I just wanted to share with you that I'm hosting a free webinar this Thursday, April 18th. And so I want you to hop on over. If you're driving, do that later when you're at a computer. But hop on over to stevenahart.com and register for the webinar. I'm going to be covering some tips and tricks and strategies that are necessary if you are to build an amazing brand that is authentic, relatable, impactful, and most importantly, profitable, right? So whether you're an entrepreneur, even if you're in the corporate world as a corporate professional or you're a leader of some sort, I know you're going to come away with some gems that you can put into application right away. So sign up today over at stevenahart.com. You should be able to do so right on the homepage. And join us. Join us this Thursday for this powerful webinar and conversation that we're going to have. That said, let's go ahead and dive in and receive today's mission fuel from our featured guests, Steve and Pasha Carter. Pasha Carter. Thank you so much for joining me.
It is a pleasure.
Honored to be here. It's our pleasure.
Yes, humbled to have you both. We start every conversation off from a place of gratitude. And I was thinking, what's an unexpected opportunity or blessing that you're both grateful for in your life right now?
Oh, man. You want to go first? Ladies first?
An unexpected opportunity. Let me think. Well, I was just graced on the cover of a magazine. And it was an unexpected, awesome opportunity. And one that was even more exciting for me is I'm a writer for Forbes magazine now. So
wow.
That is absolutely, because, as a little girl, and not even as a little girl, as a young adult, when I first got started in business, that was my go-to magazine, flipping through it, reading the stories. And now to be a contributor
right.
Forbes magazine was just an awesome invitation to receive.
Wow. That is awesome.
Wow, unexpected, sweetie. I'm sitting here thinking the whole time you had two, and I'm like, okay, Steve, come up with one.
It can be a blessing as well, Steve.
Okay, well, unexpected blessings that I am thankful. First of all, I'm thankful. This was very expected, but I'm thankful for my family every single day. I mean, I just wake up and I look at them and I'm watching these kids grow, and that just excites me to wake up every single morning. And that's the thing that really inspires me to continue to do what I do in business and what Pasha and I do together in business, because we believe in doing as much as we can while we're here, because we do recognize that time is limited for all of us. Yeah. I lost my dad a couple of years ago unexpectedly. And I think the blessing that I might look at from that is that it gave me a different perspective, because I always looked at my dad as almost a superhero type of guy where, he was the last person that you would think the reality of him not being here would be the case. And so I'm forever thankful for what he did and grateful for the way he raised us. And I'm paying that forward with my kids.
Yeah.
Heck of a great role model for that.
As you said, about a month ago, an uncle, my dad's eldest brother, I'm from a pretty large family. My dad has like 11 siblings, and his eldest brother passed away, battled cancer and passed away. And my dad's still with me, but I stood in that church. It's a small church in rural area of Jamaica in St. Mary. And we're in this packed church, Steve. And I was watching my dad kind of guiding the choir, but the church is so narrow that he's standing right next to the casket, right? And it was the first time that I kind of had this moment where I'm, it's like I'm seeing him next to a casket, and the visual of my cousins whose dad is in this casket ahead of me, right? Like the mashup of thoughts in that moment made me realize like how important it is for me to take every opportunity I can, right? Out of the years to come to spend with him, because as you said, our time is really limited.
Yes.
And before you know it, we'll all not be here, right? And we'll be passing on the baton to the next generation. So that legacy play is so important, right?
You're right, Steve. As a matter of fact, there was a gentleman that said something to me, and it wasn't even someone that I knew very well, but the most comforting statement that was made to me when I unexpectedly lost my dad was, he said, listen, just remember, it was in the correct order. Children are supposed to lose their parents and not the other way around. So we never want that day to come, but just know it was in the correct order. And that something about that, Steve, just made me feel like, wow, okay, yeah, that's a day that's going to come. It came sooner than I wanted, but we never want that. So you're right, man. So I value every single day today. I value every day with Pasha and the kids, and my mom is still here. So every day is a blessing.
So Pasha, tell me, how long have you known this handsome guy right here?
Oh, wow. We have known each other for
17,
has
18?
it been 18 years now? About 18 years now, yes.
When you were only 5 years old.
I love you, brother. I love you, man.
And that's why we love you, Steve.
How'd you guys meet?
Well, we actually, you tell the story so well. But we actually met in business. We were at a convention at a company.
That's what I thought.
And I knew of him, but I did not know him. So we were in the same direct sales company at the time. We happened to be, just happenstance, getting promoted the same weekend And
nothing's happenstance.
Yes. That's very true. And that weekend, they had a record number of promotions, and we were both hitting the top position in that company. So it was the height of that company. Wow. And he happened to be, I was the 8th promotion.
And I was 9th.
And he was the 9th promotion.
So we met backstage.
Yes. So we met backstage because after I got promoted, I went backstage to, shake hands with the owners and the founders and take pictures for the company newsletter. And then after he had his promotion, he came backstage and we crossed paths.
Wow. So at what point did you know he was the one?
At the point that I knew he was the one was after we exchanged numbers, we became really good friends.
Yeah.
And it was the weirdest thing. Our first real conversation, I felt like I'd known him all my life. It was the weirdest thing because it just felt comforting. It felt like, have we met somewhere before? It just felt like I'd known him. And so we had a long conversation on the way to the airport, realized that we had the same goals, the same dreams, had been through a lot of the same things. We could relate on so much. And it just, I don't even know how to explain it. It just felt right. It felt right. It felt right.
Love that story. I rarely get a chance to talk to married couples. So I'm asking questions I don't typically get a chance to ask. And I love that. I believe you both have now spent a couple decades, right? In direct marketing and network marketing. And you've had tremendous success, both individually, right? And now as a couple. Yeah. And I read that you led organizations of more than 100,000 members. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's a lot of people. First off, I've always had this negative vibe about network marketing, right? So I love that I have two amazing people who have been successful at this. I'd love for you first to maybe break down what this space really is. So talk to us about what network marketing is for the people who will listen to this conversation, because we're heard in 126 countries now around the world. I know you guys have had organizations with many more countries tied to it, but talk to us about what network marketing is and maybe some of the pros of this industry.
Sure. Well, the model is multi-level. And so the whole concept of our profession is that individuals that would like to sell a product can choose to become a part of a company that has those specific products or services. Mm-hmm. And you can go out and market those services. And when people purchase the product or service, you earn a percentage of whatever sales are made. But then the biggest part of it is that you can also share the opportunity with others. And as others get involved and become a part of your team, and like you mentioned, Stephen, your downline, which we built a pretty big one, you actually earn an overriding commission on what all the sales are from the individuals within your organization. And so when I first looked at this, the concept made sense to me because I said to myself, okay, wait a minute. There is no limit to how many people we can put on our team or how big of an organization we can grow. And so even if it has to be a learning curve that lasts for whatever amount of time or period that it does, I recognized up front that there was no limitation on what could be done. Mm-hmm. And so then I realized that it was all about the skill level and what I could do from it. And I remember, not this time, but later in the years, I remember reading something or listening to Will Smith said something about talent is one thing. Talent is something that God gives you, but skill is something that you've got to do. And he said, skill is beating on your craft day in and day out until you master it. And even though I had not heard that expression that way, that was the way I approached this. I said, look, I can flub this thing up as many ways and times as I can. But if I don't have a time frame or limit on how long it takes, or there's not a limit on how many mistakes I can make, and there's not a limit on how big I can build it, then why not go for it? And that was my simple thought process at the time. And then it ended up paying off. And all these thoughts came to fruition.
Wow.
Yes. And I was more like you, Stephen. I had a very negative outlook on direct marketing and network marketing before I got in. I really did. And I understand that. And that's what a lot of times I don't think people, I get it. I understand how people can look at our profession and have their own view. And it's because it's very people driven. And because anyone can get started, anyone can start a business, what starts to happen is you have people who get started that are great people. Then you have some people who get started and have some success that may not have the best intentions. And for me, the things that I disliked most about our profession was sometimes I felt like, people wanted people to get in so bad that they will overhype it. Or, instead of telling the truth on stage, it would be kind of the truth mixed with a little bit of fiction. Or, they would chase their friends down or trick people to coming to meetings. And I've seen it all. And it's sad to say that that happens, that exists. And that's the ugly part of our profession. And it's like anything else, whether it's the music industry, you have some music labels out there that are great, then you have some that are not so great. It's the same thing with schools. You have some schools where the schools are amazing, the teachers are great, and then you have some teachers who are not so great. So network marketing is no different from any other company or any other profession. You've got the good and the bad. The challenge is a lot of network marketers don't like to talk about the bad. And I think what happens is people feel like we have this distorted view where everything's so perfect, and that's just not true. We're imperfect people that have come in, that have found something, and it's going to work for some people, but you've got to go through a lot of people telling you no in order to get to the people telling you yes. You got a lot of people who are going to get started, and because most network marketing companies, it doesn't cost a whole lot to get started. So you don't have to go out and get that huge loan from the bank and lease a building and all of that kind of stuff, because you can get started for under $1,000 with most network marketing companies.
Right.
That's a positive thing.
It is.
But it can also be a not so positive thing, because what happens now is when you don't have a lot of skin in the game and you have not risked a lot, it makes it a lot easier.
You're lazy.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where when you get that and you understand that, then you can get the best out of it. So for me, when I got started, I was 23 years old. I tell people the only reason why I am where I am today is because I'm a bigger failure in network marketing, which means I've failed more than 99% of the people. And that's why we've been blessed to achieve more than a big percentage of the people. And I'm okay with that, because more people have told me no. More people have quit my business. I've had more ups and downs. And that's the reason why I think we've been able to build one of the most successful organizations in network marketing, is because we have that perspective and we get it. We get when other people don't get it.
Love that. So listen, I've been married almost 11 years to my beautiful bride. And, I thank you. I know marriages can be stressful. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. So I know building businesses and leading organizations can also be stressful. So is it more challenging when you put the two together and you have to nurture, right, and maintain a loving, intimate relationship when you're both co-leading a big organization?
Yeah, I'll answer that first, and I know you'll piggyback on this, but one of the things that we set up front, Stephen, were the parameters of our relationship prior to even getting in business together, so to speak. Because when we first came together, she ran her business, I ran mine, and then eventually we ended up just merging and building one. But we laid a couple of non-negotiable things on the table when we first came together regarding just our relationship in general. And I'll never forget, Pashas was 100% honesty and communication. And mine was never arguing or going to bed upset with each other. Make sure that, which also kind of piggybacked on hers, which was communication. And I think that has really been a huge dynamic and proponent to our successful marriages, because believe it or not, Stephen, and people really, really, really think we're exaggerating and maybe not even telling the truth when I make this next statement, but in 17 years of our marriage, we have never had a big blowout argument. Like never. Yes. And now that's not to paint any picture to the listeners that, hey, this guy's perfect and this girl's perfect. Nope. I've been in relationships prior to Pasha where arguing was just kind of the way that the relationship went. I always felt it was dysfunctional because I'm not a person that likes to argue. I like to just, let's get to the core of what the issue is. Let's resolve it and let's move forward. So if we have a disagreement, which Pasha and I, we've had disagreements, but we talk it out every single time. So communication, in my opinion, Stephen, is the number one attribute to a successful relationship. And we refuse to not discuss whatever it is that needs to be discussed. If we have some sort of, hey, your opinion is this, mine is this, Let's talk about it. And we also have a rule of, if I've done something to you, please let me know. Don't let me have to read your mind. I mean, I've 17 years, I can kind of tell if there is something wrong. But we made a pact that if I say, hey, what's wrong? Don't look at me and say nothing when your body language and everything is something. Because the one thing is, and I've told her this up front, and I know it's vice versa, that I would never do anything to intentionally upset you. So if I have, you got to also recognize I didn't mean it. So first tell me what it is I did, and then let's discuss it and just know that it wasn't intentional. So that has been really, really instrumental in us having the kind of relationship. This is my best friend, man. This is my ride or die. This is my dog. This is my, you name it, man. This is my homie right here, So I can't get mad at her like that, because I know she never would do something to intentionally hurt my feelings or upset me. Never. So if she does, she's the first to say, hey, I didn't mean it. However, if I made you feel that way, I'm sorry. And I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I know why we get along well now, man. You stole my script. I feel 100% in line with what you just said, man. My father-in-law, I remember, went to my in-law's house to ask for her hand in marriage. And he said, I remember him telling me that day that love was not going to get us through, right? Like commitment and communication is what would carry our marriage forward, right? And you're spot on. I mean, in many ways, I can think to relationships of the past that were dysfunctional, where we'd argue a lot. And I truly don't argue with Kristen that much. And we rarely ever. I can't think of a night where I can't go lay in my bed, right? Yeah. Because the friction and tension is there. So I love you sharing that, man.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm loving to hear that someone else has the same philosophies, man. That's what I believe this world needs more of, man. Love overcomes and conquers everything else.
Absolutely.
So, there's no jealousy. There's no envy. There's no any of that with us, because I want the best for her, and I know she wants the best for me. And we jokingly say to each other, Stephen, that, when God calls one of us home, I'm hoping it's me first and she's hoping it's her first, because we can't imagine being here without the other. So I'm like, man, let me go first. She's like, no, I'm going first. I'm like, don't do that to me. Don't leave me here without you. So we got a pact that it might have to, it's all natural. We're just asking God, take us within 60 seconds of each other. We're not going to take our own life, but Lord, a minute later, I need to be, take me too,
I'm dying. I love that. Mrs. Carter.
First of all, I'm over here just blushing ear to ear. And Steve is absolutely right. I think one of the worst sayings ever that a lot of us have bought into over the years is, it's important to argue and make up. I've heard people say that, like it makes sense to them. And I think they say that because maybe it's a warped sense of saying, well, when we make up, then you're communicating. But if you communicate on the front end, and also you don't have an ego. See, the ego is the thing that stops you from saying, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And so for myself and Steve, I don't have a problem. I'm wrong a lot. And I say I'm sorry a lot. And it doesn't make me less of a wife. It doesn't make me less of a mom when I make a mistake. It just makes me human. And so that's one of the things that we're okay with, is saying we're sorry. And the other thing that I see couples in business do is, instead of being one team, I see them competing with each other. I see that a lot in our profession. So one person may come and say, I'm going to hit this position before you. And you're competing with your spouse. And what happens is that's a lose-lose situation, because here's the thing. If someone hits the position first and you guys are a couple, well, that means somebody in the relationship has to lose. So why are we competing with each other when we're fighting for the same thing? We're fighting for our family to be free and for us to be able to create this lifestyle. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that couples make is when they get in a business together and they become each other's competition versus understanding that they're on the same team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love that you guys shared that. So you aren't each always benefiting from having these accolades and the money and all that comes with being at the top, right? Let's talk a little bit about some of the sacrifices that you've had to make along the way to build a business. Pasha, you've talked a little bit about failure, right? share with me some of the sacrifices along the way.
Well, here's the thing. What a lot of people don't know is when I first got started in business, one of the reasons why I got started in direct sales was because I didn't have the money to start a traditional business. I didn't have the credit to start a traditional business. So I was 23 years old. And when I walked into the room and they started showing income potential, that I was like, wow, is it possible for me to be able to make that type of revenue? It was $500 to start that business back then. And Stephen, I didn't have the $500. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was a very humbling place for me to be, because at that time I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. I was working 2 jobs. I worked at Emory University. I coached gymnastics in the evening, and I cheered for the Falcons. So technically, I guess that's 3. And I was struggling financially. I was sleeping on the floor of my best friend's 1-bedroom apartment in Marietta, Georgia. Wow. And I was just at a low point in my life. And so for me, when people say I can't afford to get started, or I got to figure out a way, I made it happen. I figured out a way to borrow a little bit from a few people and to, take a few things that I had and, go and, sell a few things to be able to come up with the money to get started in my first business. It wasn't because I just had it laying around. I said to myself at that time, if I don't figure out a way to make this happen or something happen, God forbid, another 12 months or another 5 years, I'm in this same predicament that I'm in because I chose an excuse versus figuring out a solution to the problem.
Yeah. Love it. So let's talk a little bit about gems, right? I'd love for you to maybe, and Steve, I'd love for you to maybe jump in here. What are some of the key components to succeeding in business?
I would say, just off the top of my head, the first thing that needs to happen is to have a level of belief. That's, in my opinion, that's number one, because it starts on the inside. So you've got to first believe that you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. The other thing that I believe is finding what you enjoy doing, finding something that complements your personality. My dad used to always say, and this was far before I was introduced to network marketing, you and your brother know everybody, man. One day it's going to pay off for you guys just knowing everybody and having all these friends. And when I end up in a people business where it's about relationships and knowing people and having the communication abilities. So I believe doing something that makes you feel good. And then the other thing, Stephen, is not being afraid to work and having the proper perspective that it doesn't just fall in your lap, and it doesn't fall in your lap overnight. And so you've got to understand that work shows up on the back end of what's done today. We just a lot of times don't know how long or how far out that back end is. It may be do something today, start to see some results in 90 days, or do something today, see some real results 6 months from now. Do something today, and a year from now, your life changes. We don't know, because if we knew that, we'd be in the crystal ball business, right? But we're in the business of, lay a foundation, plant a seed, do it right, work the right way, do things with integrity. So those are some of the gems, in my opinion, that an entrepreneur, or I should say an aspiring entrepreneur, must have. And I may have jumped around a little bit, but those are the things that come to my mind when I think about what's necessary.
Yes. I love that. Actually, just recently spoke on an episode about the parable of the Chinese bamboo tree. Not sure if you're familiar with that parable.
Absolutely. Right? You don't see any. What's the time frame, Steve? You don't see anything for like the first 5 years or something?
The first 4 years, nothing happens with the Chinese bamboo tree. Yes. But in the 5th year, the Chinese bamboo tree sprouts 80 feet in 6 weeks.
Amen.
Right? And
I love that.
I've been getting a lot of great feedback about that, just encouraging people to keep watering that seed, even when nothing's coming out the ground and everyone else is telling you you're crazy, and you need to move on. And those people being the closest people to you most of the time.
Most of the time. Yep.
Right? You still need to water your seed, and you need to align yourself with people around you who are going to support you and encourage you to water it even when you don't feel like it, right?
Another analogy that I've used over the years in training, Stephen, is the comparison is like a microwave. If you're microwaving some popcorn, microwavable popcorn, And I look at this, it usually takes 3 minutes to make a full bag of popcorn. But that very first minute,
nothing's popping.
You don't hear one kernel pop. And the problem that most people do is in their business of whatever they're doing, if they look at it like the popcorn scenario, they'll open the door and wonder why this thing isn't working and why a kernel hasn't popped. And if you make the mistake of opening the door and stopping the microwave, you got to start all over. Yes. And so I always let people know, listen, in business, those 3 minutes could represent 3 years.
Wow.
For the first year, you may not pop anything, but don't stop. If you stop, you're going to have to start all over. So I say that second minute of the microwave, you start to hear a couple of pop, 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 and they're spread out. But then come near that third minute, and then all of a sudden, pop, 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 and the bag starts inflating and going big. And then it's like after a while, all of it is finished and it's done, and you've got a masterpiece. You open it up and you can enjoy. But most people in their lifespan of business, they are opening the microwave door far too soon.
Yes. I love it. I love that one. I'll definitely add that one to the list. So let me ask you, one of the things I think is a pro to your business and the industry as well is creating passive income. Yes?
Yes.
And I'm guessing that you've created a passive stream that's still providing income to you, even in some of these businesses that you've now departed from. Is that correct?
Well, some of the network marketing businesses, sometimes they have policies where depending on if you transition from one to another, but there are some that are still going. Yes. But some of them don't, so I don't want to paint the picture to the audience that any business that you go from one to the other, you continue to get it, because some businesses will look at it as almost competition and say, hey, well, you are now competing against us. And then they'd rather take you to court and say, hey, fight that. And you're spending a whole bunch of money, which is not worth it a lot of times. Yeah. But there are some that are ethical and you can continue to make money off of what you've built in the past. So, yeah. So yes and no with some of the other ones.
I sometimes take 2 steps back because I realize I understand the elements of passive income. Talk to me about what are some of the ways we can create passive income.
Sure. Well, I believe personally that network marketing is one of the strongest ways. And that's because you're in a position, because there's 2 aspects of passive income, in my opinion, Stephen. There's a residual income that can happen through the efforts of people, but then there's also a residual income that can happen from a customer purchasing a product. And so when you're building a team in our profession, you're going to have individuals that are in your organization that because of what they've done this week, they generate something, and they'll do it again next week and they generate something. But even though it may not be the same amount every single month as passive income is when it comes to the customers purchasing product, well, it's still money that's coming off of the efforts of others. And as long as those individuals are still working, you can begin to experience the magic of network marketing. And I'll say one other thing, and I'd love to hear from Pasha on this as well. But one other aspect that I think is so powerful and profound, and I learned this a long time ago, Stephen, that I think it was Robert Kiyosaki, who we ended up meeting and have done some business with as well. I remember Robert saying that he learned early on that passive income can yield a lifestyle of the wealthy. And he said, most people mistakenly think that wealth means $1 million or wealth means 5 million or 10 million. He said, when you really look at what passive income does, wealth can be created, or a feeling of wealth and freedom can be created as long as the passive income is higher than the amount of expenses that needs to be taken care of. So if you can make $10,000 in passive income that you don't have to physically lift a finger for, and your outgoing expenses are $8,000, I'm just giving an example. Well, then you can live free and still make money every month, not do anything. So you live like wealthy people because you don't have to get up and go punch a clock for somebody. So it's not necessarily the amount itself as much as it is what it gives you in terms of a lifestyle.
Right. You want to touch on that?
Yes. I realized early on that we are the biggest consumers in the world. And when I first got started in network marketing, the interesting thing for me was so many of my peers were negative towards.
So when you say we, African Americans?
Yes, we as African Americans. African Americans are the biggest consumers in the world.
Yeah.
We will go out on Black Friday and stand in long lines to give away our money. And we have trillions of dollars outgoing. And we feel good about that because it makes you feel good when you look good and all of these things. But the interesting other side to that I found is a lot of us as a people can be very negative when it comes to being on the ownership side of something. And with passive income, a lot of times when I've talked to my peers about it, they don't believe in it. And I say, well, when you're out there and you're a consumer and you're spending money every single month on this, I don't care if you've got a bill coming in every month, somebody, somewhere, you may not know
on the receiving end
of that. You know, that money isn't just going up into the cloud. Somebody's making money off of that. And that's how I've always viewed it. So I've always looked at bills that were coming in as, wow, I'm spending this money. Where's it going? Whether it's a light bill, whether it's a phone bill, whether it's a bill for my supplements, it didn't matter what it was. In my mind, I was always thinking to myself, okay, somebody's making money off of that. How can it be me? And so when I started to really get the concept of passive income, I would look back at like old sitcoms, whether it be The Facts of Life or
you were way
or the Brady Bunch.
Some of the listeners are going to say, "What show was that?
How old is she?" The Brady Bunch. You know, what was your favorite one with the guy? I can't remember your favorite. Alex P. Keaton.
Oh, Family Ties.
Yes,
I loved Alex because he was an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is, when these actors, they created these shows one time we were watching these reruns.
I'm still getting paid.
Just like Lionel Richie. You know, the beautiful songs that he's written that, you know, many of us have gotten married to or, you know, shows still utilize and open up to. He wrote those songs back in the 70s. And he's getting royalties off of that. And that intrigued me because, and the problem was, I'm not a great singer. I don't act, nor do I write.
I can attest to that.
But I wanted the passive income. I was thinking, oh my God, that is the best way ever to make money. If only I were that talented, it would be fantastic, but I'm not. So when I saw network marketing, I was like, oh my God, here's my chance to be able to earn that type of income because for me, exchanging hours for dollars, first of all, I hate traffic. There's nothing that bothers me more than getting up in the morning to head somewhere I don't want to go and be stuck in traffic. That I don't know if it's just me, but that really bothered me. So to be stuck in traffic was big for me. To go to a place and be there for a certain amount of hours and they say, we're going to pay you this amount for these hours. And if you want to get paid again, you got to show up again to make it. Now that works for some people and I get it. But for me, I would always say to myself, I want to be able to find consumers that are happy, where every time they're purchasing something and they're happily purchasing those products, I'm happily getting paid a percentage of that. So I was always looking for that. And so when I found network marketing, I was like, okay, this is where I'm planting my flag. This is what makes sense to me. And this is what makes me happy because I love freedom. I love being able to work from home. I love, you know, not having to ask if I can take off a vacation. You know, I just love the freedom and flexibility that it offers. Now, it does have the other side. You got to work your butt off to get to where you can have that. But entrepreneurs, I always say, we're the only people that are crazy enough where we say to ourselves, we rather work 12, 14 hours a day for ourselves than 8 for somebody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think the part of that is that you're working for a vision and a mission of your own versus somebody else's vision and mission, right? So you will put in that energy and go on 4 hours sleep for weeks on end to see something come to, you know, give birth to this baby, this idea, this dream of your own, right? Versus somebody else's.
Yes.
So I totally appreciate that. Steve, you're the leadership and development and training Don Dada. Talk to some of our young leaders about some of the attributes and skills and what's needed to effectively lead others.
I'll tell you, one of the things it piggybacks on what we talked about earlier, Stephen, in terms of our personal relationship. I believe that communication and also integrity That is very, very important. And one thing about business is that if you are more concerned, and this is what I've learned over the years that has always proven to be correct, and that is if you're more concerned with helping others to accomplish whatever it is that they are looking to accomplish, somehow the universe gives it back to you if you're able to successfully do that. So I just believe in the philosophy of the better that you can lead, the better the results you're going to get in terms of what you're looking to build. So I've always wanted to empower individuals to eventually not need my guidance. Because, a lot of times we've said for many, many years in this profession that our job is to work ourselves out of a job.
Right.
And that is get some individuals up and running and up to speed to where if they have the type of leadership, which is they have to have the belief in themselves, they have to not be afraid to have the work ethic, to get up and go after it every single day, have thick skin to where when the naysayers who are going to come in the form of family members, they're going to come in the form of classmates, they're going to come in the form of coworkers and neighbors and churchgoers, you're going to have the people that don't see your vision. And if you allow someone else's opinion to have more power than your own, you will always lose as an entrepreneur because someone's going to find you and tell you that your idea stinks and that it's not going to work. And I've always said, never give somebody the power of their thought being stronger than your own. So that's what I would encourage for young up and coming entrepreneurs is do things right, believe in yourself, care about others, communicate with others, and make sure that you are willing to meet them halfway and go just as hard. I've never believed in telling somebody what to do and not being willing to do it myself.
Absolutely.
Lead by example. They need to be able to look at you and see that what you teach them is absolutely what you are about.
Absolutely. That is so
and not being fearful, right, of someone else taking, like, I love that you said, working yourself out of a job, right?
Yep.
I think that's the metric that tells that you're doing a good job if you've raised up enough other leaders, right, that are now succeeding at a high level.
Yes.
I've never subscribed to the idea that, I can only teach somebody this much. And if I give them anything more, it's going to be at, my peril, right? Like, I can never buy into that mindset and why people think that way.
That's right, because that mindset is scarcity and will always be limited.
Yeah.
One aspect that we learned early on in our profession, and I mean this with the utmost respect of anyone that's ever brought a network marketing opportunity to me, but every single one that we've ever joined, Stephen, we have always out-earned the individual who brought us in.
Wow.
And so people have the misconception that if you're in first, you automatically make more than the person that comes after you. That's not accurate. It's how you build your business, because network marketing has to do with width and depth and the amount of customers and certain number of legs. All that stuff plays a part in this. So we have always out-earned the person that introduced us to a particular company. And for that, I've always said to myself, you know what? I want to teach others to hopefully one day out-earn me.
Right.
And because if you can give somebody the independence of, hey, this is how you're going to make your living, you never have to worry about waking up and having to try to motivate somebody when this is how they make their money. This is how they make a living. You get enough people in it, usually in our profession, Stephen, a handful, 5 or 6 people like that, and you can earn millions of dollars and never work again if you teach others how to make, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions themselves.
Right. I love that. I know you guys touched on the fact that you have kids. How many kids do you have?
4.
4?
Yes.
How old are they?
14, 12, 10, and 8.
God bless you.
Yep, the girls are the oldest, so 14 and 12 are the girls, and then our little guys are 10 and 8.
Wow. So I have 2. I have my daughter will be 9 in like another month.
Yes.
And our son will be 5 in the summer.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it.
So
see, you had a balance with the first 2. See, what happened for us was we had our daughter, then we had another daughter, and then I looked at my wife and said, okay, I love my girls like crazy, but I got to have at least the last name to continue. So I need a boy. And she's like, well, we can go one more shot. So then we had the boy, and then I'm watching how the girls play together and all this. And I said, man,
and more importantly, that you're twins.
And I'm a twin. And I said to her, he needs a playmate. And she's like, well, what makes you think it's going to be a boy? I'm like, hey, it's 50-50 here. Let's just gamble. And then we had our fourth child, who was our son.
And let me tell you how he got me, Stephen. He told me, he said, listen, the reason why I want to try one more time when we had our son, he said, because I'm a twin and I grew up with a built-in best friend.
Yep.
Melted. I
had a built-in best friend.
A built-in best friend.
And guess what? Them can be best friends with each other because we ain't having no more.
Done. I love that.
We're done. But let me ask you, how are you teaching the kids certain principles about being successful in life?
I think that's one of the most fun parts. We talk about this all the time because now our children are exploring entrepreneurship. As a matter of fact, one is peeping through the window right now. I just left an audition with her. That's my oldest daughter. She's 14 and she's a model. She just went to have this big audition for a nationwide commercial. So we're waiting to hear back. But now she's an entrepreneur. She's developing her own skincare line. She
wow.
do different things. My other daughter she's more artsy. So she can paint and sketch and all of these amazing things. So she's working on, how do I turn this into income? So for us, it's so much fun figuring out. And my youngest son, the baby, wants to be like Eric Thomas, who's the baby. So
love it.
His little videos, and he wants his own YouTube channel.
Baby E.T.
And that's exactly what he says. Like sometimes in his talk, he'll say E.T. baby.
Yeah.
He's 8.
I love it.
So it's the cutest thing, and I love it because, now they're exploring their passions, and we can say, okay, we're not pushing what we do on you. We really want you to figure out, and this is what we teach them, figure out the things that you're good at and the things that bring you joy. And if you can figure out a way to monetize those things, you'll never feel like you're working. I honestly feel like before a child leaves your home, they should know how to build $1 million business of their own. And that's what we do. And we teach them also to embrace failure. And I think that's the biggest challenge for the young generation today with social media big and everybody looking like they have this perfect life. I think the kids are afraid to fail. They don't want the world. They don't want to be under this magnifying glass. So a lot of people are out there putting on this image of, what they have and what they're doing. And a lot of that is not the case. And I tell my kids all the time, when you come home from school, I want to know the things that you messed up on. Let's celebrate those, because if you fail and you make a mistake, that means you tried something new. That means you pushed yourself beyond the things that you can naturally do. So whether it's at school, whether it's at basketball practice, whether it's at cheer, if you fail, it was probably because you were attempting a new skill, not because you were mastering an old skill. So those are the things that we do with them, and they laugh at us. And right now, honestly, they think it's kind of corny.
That's all good.
Yeah, that's how they are. They think it's corny, but I hear my 14-year-old every now and then when she's talking to her friends and she doesn't know I'm listening. I hear some of the things that my husband said to her coming out, and she's giving them advice. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Love it.
They're getting it.
Yep. Love it. I was thinking, because a past guest of ours, Tamika Montgomery, she used to be with the Small Business Administration under the Obama administration.
Wow.
She's since left, and she's homeschooling 3 boys. She has a podcast. I'm thinking, I have to connect you two. Yeah. You love her and her husband, Jonathan, but they have a podcast called Racing Entrepreneurs. And as I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, I have to introduce Pasha to Tamika. Yeah. But love those tips. Tamika actually held the first kids entrepreneurship fair here in Maryland last summer. And my daughter, she's very well-rounded, loves arts, loves sports, but is shy and very introverted. And Tamika reached out and said, hey, we're having a fair. Do you think Layla would want to take part? I said, absolutely not, but absolutely yes. Sign her up.
Right.
Right? And
that's what I do. Right. Exactly.
And it was exciting to watch the process, because she had to create a business. She had to figure out, what her product was going to be. She had to borrow money from mom and dad and figure out how she's going to pay us back. That freaked her out, right? And she ended up she decided to start a rock business called Layla Rocks.
Yes.
And, she painted rocks and sold rocks.
I love it.
sold $108 of profit of rocks.
I love that.
Right? And it was amazing to kind of watch the process. And, when it was all done, my wife was like, all right, back off, give her some breathing room and let that breathe for a bit. Yeah. And in the last month or so, I've seen her now starting to paint again and paint the rocks and get back into it. So, it's exciting to kind of watch that and feel.
And the things that they learn from that, what they learn is, I can take nothing and turn it into something and make
Absolutely.
That's what true entrepreneurship is. So now I think in today's world, we as entrepreneurs, we're instilling that in our kids. A lot of times for them, it's fun. They're just painting and, making a little money. But what's really going on in their subconscious is they're being taught at a very early age that I can make it happen myself.
Yes.
Somebody else has to, I don't have to show up for someone else's dreams and goals. I can create my own.
Yes. Listen, I could just keep you guys here for the rest of the night. I'm going to wrap things up for you so you guys can get some rest. We're doing this call pretty late here. But 2 last questions for you. Our Blazer Nation loves to hear about the books and resources of our guests. So would love for you guys to share maybe some books that you would recommend we add to our summer queue.
I absolutely love reading. Let me just,
yes.
My mentor, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, says it best. Leaders are readers. And if you're not willing to read, you need to learn to fail gracefully. I learned that at 23 years old. And let me tell you something, I've been reading ever since. And so let me share, I have quite a few favorite books, but The Wealth Choice, of course, by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough.
Yes.
My favorites. It interviews a lot of the wealthiest African Americans. My husband and I were blessed to be a part and be interviewed for that book. So that's one of my favorite books, as well as Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and the Think and Grow Rich by
A Black Choice
by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. And the reason why I say that is because I read both. And when I was reading about Rockefeller and all these different people, I was enamored and I was like, wow. But when I started reading about Madam C.J. Walker, it reminded me of my grandma. And I started reading stories that I could really relate to. And that's the book that I read in my 20s. And I said to myself, wow, if they can do it, I could do this. If Madam C.J. Walker can build $1 million business and it sounds just like she was raised just like my grandma in the South, I was like, I can do this. So those are three of my all-time favorite books. I have plenty more, but those are my top 3 favorites.
Love it.
One of the books that really grabbed me, because I think that this is something that a lot of people are going to face, especially aspiring entrepreneurs, is I love Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's because you've got both of these voices in your ear. One person telling you to do something this way, another telling you to do something the other way. One can earn you a living, make a paycheck, but then the other one is radically different, and it's telling you how to become an entrepreneur and how to be a business owner, how to take risks and not want a job. So I love that book because it depends on what someone really wants out of life. There's some people that prefer and are far more comfortable earning a paycheck and saying, hey, I just want a job. They feel that is a sense of security in their mind. And I've always said perception is reality. So whatever someone believes is right, they're right if that's how they see it. But I think that it gives people the perspective to say, wow, which one makes more sense for me? Is it to get the job and have what looks like security and paycheck that you don't have to guess what it's going to be? It's the same, doesn't get any bigger, doesn't get any smaller. Or are you willing to say, you know what? I don't want a limitation. I don't want anyone telling me what I can and can't do. So I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was foundationally an excellent book for my thinking.
Those are 4 classic books right there. Highly, highly encourage everyone listening to put those books in your queue, get them on audio, get them hard copies, however you do it.
Oh, man, Steven, that's why I love you, brother. Because Pasha knows anytime she talks about books, it goes without saying that mine has to be an audio. Because if I have a physical book, it is
you won't get through it as much.
Sedative for me. It's a sedative. It just immediately starts putting me to sleep if I'm reading. But an audio book, oh man, while I'm shaving my head or shaving my face or anything, I'm listening to stuff. I like to feed the brain with that subconscious, powerful leadership development going in versus the news and things like that, where you go to bed hearing about all the tragedies in the world. And so I like to feed my brain with positive things every single day. So audiobooks are where I go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, both ways work for me. Being a podcaster, I kind of clicked for me a couple of years ago. I was like, you know what? I consume podcasts. I do audio very well. And I complement the audiobooks with Evernote, right? So as I'm listening, I'll write out, I'll start a notebook I have like a notebook on books I've read, and I'll just create a note and open a note on a particular book. And if I hear something, I'll write it out, right? And just kind of put that thought down, because I'm also good with visual. So sometimes, if I listen to a good book, I'll go buy the hard copy and, kind of highlight stuff that I really want to hold on to and put into application. But both ways work for me. But audio, I get through a lot more books in the course of a year.
Yeah, I'm more audio, and Pasha is more physical book. She wants to highlight the pages.
Yes, I need every color highlighter.
She's going to dog ear the pages and have bookmarks in there. All of that. Don't touch her book. Is I already know it. Don't touch the book. And I'm like, don't worry. I want the audio version. I'm not touching that.
That's right. That's right. Last question for you guys, and I'll let you guys go. What's one action that our Blazer Nation should take this week that's going to help them to blaze their trail?
Do it before you're ready.
That is so true.
And because so often...
That is so true.
People are waiting for the
perfect
time. They're waiting the perfect age, the perfect business, the perfect idea, and they are waiting to get everything right. And what happens is a month goes by, a year goes by, 3 years go by, 5 years go by, and you're at the reunion talking about that idea that you started 5 years ago that you still hadn't quite gotten off the ground. So I learned from the young lady who started Spanx, which is $1 billion company. She said the biggest piece of advice that she's ever been given that has helped her build $1 billion company was to start before you're ready. So that's my motto for everything. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a book, I don't have to know everything. I'm just going to start writing. I'm going to mess up, but I'm going to start writing. If it's an idea that I have, I'm just going to start going after it and start taking steps in that direction and starting before I'm ready.
So the best way to say that, well, not best, but a different way to say that as well is to your audience is the action to take is to take action.
Yes. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I should have started this podcast 2 years before I did. Thankfully, I did. Right? Yes. And likewise, I'm in the midst of launching a course right now, online course. And again, it's 2 years in my head and fighting with the time to create it. And it got to the point in the fall last year, I was like, you know what? I got to, just shut up and do the work, right? And I launched in beta in the most imperfect states. But we got it up. And, it was amazing to watch money come in while I'm sleeping, while I'm out, while I'm doing whatever. And now we're working through the 2.0 and, perfecting based on the input that came in while it was still raw and while it wasn't perfect, right? And you realize like, oh, I didn't need all of this. And you could, tweak your recipe based on the input of the people that you're trying to serve. So couldn't agree with you more. Love that. Absolutely. Love the two of you. I'm now your new best friend.
We're brothers now, man. And I want two things I want to say. Number one, I love that sign that's on your wall behind you.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that when I made
Love is all you need.
Love is all you need. Yeah, I love that. That is beautiful. And it's so true.
Thank you.
Another side note that I wanted to point out, you mentioned that your daughter's name is Layla.
Yeah.
Our oldest daughter's name is Jayla.
Wow. That's awesome. Love it. Love it. Well, listen, God bless you both. Thank you so very much. You're now part of the Trailblazer family. We couldn't be happier to have you guys and have your wisdom here. Pasha.
Say one last thing. I want to commend you
yes,
on such an amazing podcast that you've put together to
Thank
bring
you.
together so many leaders and provide the world with the things that they need to succeed in life, to succeed in business, and to succeed in their relationships. The world is going to be blessed because you stepped up and you started before you were ready. So thank you so much for putting this together so that not only our generation, but our children can start listening to these podcasts and grow as well. So thank you.
So we thank you.
That was the fuel for it. That was Layla was the fuel for this podcast and for our kids, right? I want them to see people that sound and look like them achieving success, not necessarily as an athlete or a musician, but doing things that they're truly passionate about doing. And that was the fuel that led to, this idea coming to life. So hopefully our kids will be the ones consuming this down the road and listening to our wisdom, right?
Well, we thank you for having us. And I just want to end by saying, I am officially your new brother from another mother. Pasha is officially your new sister from another mister.
Love it. Tell us how we can stay connected to you guys.
Yes, you can reach me at PashaCarter.com. That's PASHA Carter.com. Or you can always go to Facebook, and I'm at Pasha Carter Official is my tag.
Your handle. Yeah. Good stuff. We'll make sure we'll put these in the show notes. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm Steve Carter Online. That's my direct website as well as my Facebook. So Facebook.com/Steve Carter Online.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Stephen.
Have a great one, brother.
I'm Steve Nehart, and you've been listening to the Trailblazers.fm podcast. If you're not yet doing so, consider following Trailblazers.fm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and feel free to connect with me over on LinkedIn. Whenever you're posting stories or social media posts about Trailblazers.fm, be sure to use the hashtag TBPod and hashtag Mission Fuel. We'll be able to see you, and I'll be able to show some love. And in case you're not aware, our show notes for all our episodes can be found on our website over at tbpod.com. Now, if today was your first time listening, I just want to say big ups, enough respect for checking us out. You've made this Jamaican guy really happy that you're here with us today. And I'd love your help with keeping this Black excellence flowing each and every week. So if you haven't yet subscribed, hop on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Search Trailblazers.fm and subscribe, rate, and review us there. Be sure to browse through some of our past episodes. There are more than 150 published episodes now, and a little something is out there for everyone to help keep the knowledge flowing. We grow when you, as part of our Blazer Nation community, shares and invites your friends and family to listen to an episode you think might impact them most. We believe that someone listening to these inspiring stories are going to be moved to make significant changes that have generational impact for many others, both now and well into the future. Don't miss next week's episode. New episodes are released each and every Monday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. Blazer Nation, go out today and find a way to rise above, go way beyond, and keep blazing your trail.